have a confession to make. I have an issue with 1890s shirtwaists. That issue is the weather. It stinks. Sometimes it's hot. Sometimes it's really hot. On a couple very special days of the year, it's even cool enough to wear a winter coat. And therein lies the problem. Because all those 1890s witches wore long sleeves all of the time. So what do you do if you want to create a historically adequate 1890s shirtwaist to wear to events and want to still wear the thing the 9 months out of the year that it is literally above 80 degrees outside? I mean, there's only so many layers you can take off before you get arrested, you know? Easy. You make the sleeves convertible. Let me show you how. First, a quick little mock-up. No changes, which is great because between you and me, this is 2 days post-unicorn and I just don't have the energy. Here's my layout. I just have enough fabric, which is a little over 2 yards. Thanks for the extra couple inches, Mood. Yes, don't silk paint indoors, folks. This was not the original pattern I wanted to use for this project. Originally, it was going to be this baby from Black Snail, which requires a lot less yardage, but my wearable mock-up did not turn out right. The bodice was supposed to be entirely pin-tucked. Do you see any pin-tucks here? No, you don't. Because there is no guide and no instruction for the pin-tucks anywhere in the pattern or the instructions for this particular view. So I decided to find another pattern. Okay, enough whining, let's cut her out. All right, we've cut everything out and flatlined the bodice pieces. Now, for those of you who are new to sewing, flatlining basically just means you've taken the fashion fabric and the lining and you've put it together and sewn it as one piece, versus bag lining, which is where you assemble all of the fashion fabric pieces together, you assemble all of the lining pieces together, and then you put those together and the lining just kind of bags inside. I went ahead and serged all of my bodice edges as well. You don't have to do this. The Victorians wouldn't have done this. They didn't have time to finish all of the edges. Me personally, I'm really hard on my things, and unlike the Victorians, I'm going to be running this through a modern washing machine quite a bit. So I want to make sure that it holds up. So that was what I think to be probably the most laborious part of this project. Knock on wood. I hope I didn't just jinx myself. Why is there always a curvy seam? Glad that's over. Okay, there's the basic assembly done. Let's go. The difference between a professional looking make and a sloppy one is ironed seams. Do it. It takes time. I know it's a pain, but it makes all the difference in the world. Here are the darts as they're drawn on the pattern. And yes, pin from the outside for easy initial adjustment. Okay, so I did have to move the bust darts and change the shape of these bust darts here. That's to be expected. Not only am I disproportionate, but I'm also planning on wearing this more with modern undergarments than period undergarments, and so the bust points are different. I definitely think that I should have spent a little more time trying to adjust the mock-up because it's too long in the waist and it's too tight in the bust. But really, it's not that bad. I was and am just too burnt out from the unicorn to really want to spend too much time trying to get this perfect. So we are getting some wrinkling here specifically, and I do think part of that is my bust, and I think also it just has to do with the fact that I'm not wearing a corset. But you know what? Most of the time when I'm wearing this blouse to a historical event, I'm going to have a waistcoat on over it and you're not going to see it. So you know what? Done is better than perfect sometimes. I did, however, adjust a little in the center front over the bust because there is a full 1.25 inches of seam allowance there to serve as extra facing measuring for the hooks and eyes. I just sort of made it a little larger there, and I think that made a big difference. However, I've decided I'm not going to put hooks and eyes all the way up this blouse. I can get it on fine as is, so why make the extra work for myself, and why would I make myself go have to buy more hooks and eyes when I can just hook an eye right here and just slip it on over my head. Pressy, 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 so you don't get stressy. Pressy, 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 so it don't look messy when you go get dressedy. Pressy, pressy, press the seams. One tiny issue with the pattern: cut 2 fabric, 1 interfacing. But what kind of interfacing? Do you see a cutting layout for interfacing here? Nope. So I guess I'll use that random bolt of midweight fusible I found buried under my table last month. I'm just gonna put it out there, I hate trimming down seams. It makes your sewing basically permanent, but on sharp corners like on collars, it's important. And then it was time to attach the collar. Flip the collar. Snip the collar. That's right, folks. You guessed it. Press the collar. Now we have to bone the shirtwaist. Why? Even though this garment is not supportive, adding boning helps keep the waist from riding up over your body, and it helps to keep all of your lines nice and smooth. We'll start 1 7/8 of an inch down from the pit and begin there. For those of you who watched my 1880s bustle gowns video, this process will look familiar. You want to make sure you tack these down only to the seam allowances. And it's up to you whether you want to hand stitch them or tackle them with the machine. Last time I did the former, so this time let's try the latter. The bottom of the blouse gets finished using a facing. This feels like an unnecessary step, but we're going to use it to our advantage and use it to extend the waist down a little bit because it's just a wee bit too short. True to my word, I'm only going to put hooks and eyes on the very top of the blouse and the neck. Is this going to make it a little bit harder to get on? Yeah, but I'm willing to make the sacrifice. All right, so let's talk about the sleeves. That's all we have left to do. Up to this point, we've been following the directions to a T, but we are going to change them up from here on in because we want to make them convertible. Now the instructions say to assemble the undersleeve and then assemble they're calling them epaulets, so we'll call them epaulets. And then assemble the epaulets, put those two together, and then put it in the arm side. But we're gonna switch it up just a little bit. First, let's edge finish the epaulets. You can use either size or both together. No surprise, I went for the full shebang. To add some extra pizzazz, I reached for the roll of cream crochet lace from my stash that's literally bigger than my head. The two layers get attached by basting them together with 2 sets of running stitches. To attach the epaulettes, find the side seam. Measure up 3 inches on each side. These are the points where the epaulettes will end. Gather up your running stitches to fit the arm side and pin. Oh my god! Y'all, look, I am not a crier, but if I was, right now, I'd be bawling. It's so cute. I feel like this is the first time in my life where the results have exceeded my expectations. All right, I'm just gonna stand here and pet the sleeves a minute. Okay, but all weirdness aside, the permanent puffy sleeves are put in. Let's go deal with the undersleeves. Like the bottom of the blouse, the sleeves are finished using a facing. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed over on my Ko-fi page. If you're enjoying this content and want to help support the channel by buying me a coffee, I've linked to it down below. Alternatively, you can drop down into the comments and say hi or give the video a big thumbs up. Once the cuffs are attached, you can go ahead and seam the sleeves together. Note that the pattern has you flat line, but I'm opting not to line the sleeves. This will keep them nice and lightweight and, well, I just didn't have enough fabric. Instead of buttoning around the wrist, which is hard to do on your own, the wrists are split for ease of dressing. I like that. Off camera, I tackled down the armpit. Try and tackle your armpit. I dare you. Off camera, I tacked down the armpit seam allowance and prepped for hook and eye tape. I then pinned the sleeve into the arm side to measure and adjust the gathers. You want to start by pinning at the dot on the bodice, then pin around and pull your running stitches until it fits in the arm side. Sew down the gathers so that they stay in place. Then cut out a length of cotton tape to stabilize around the arm side. To save time, we'll sew some hook and eye tape on the armpit portion of the arm side instead of a bunch of individual hooks. After 3 redos, I've finally gotten the hook and eye tape sewn onto the armpit of this blouse. It would have taken me less time to just use regular hooks and eyes on this thing. But oh well, what's done is done, and in the long run this is going to be, I think, a lot more stable than just some random hooks and eyes on my underarm. I had a hard time with it because while the hooks are hidden, the tape part of the eyes kept popping up over the lip of the pit. And while more than likely nobody's going to see it, because how often am I going to be running around with my arms up, I still wanted to make it invisible. So here's what I figured out. I had these up here against the seam allowance. That didn't work. So what I did was hook the hooks onto the eyes and then just moved them so that the tape was hidden by the lip, and then that's where I pinned it. So as you can see, it's about a seam allowance width away from the actual seam allowance. I was worried about how much space this was going to take up in the underarm, but because it's actually like the seam allowance space, it's perfect. We got the little hookies here that are gonna hook under the arms, comme ça, and there we go. It's pretty well hidden. It's not perfect, but it'll do pig. So now all we have left to do is to scatter a few regular skirt hooks on the other part of the sleeve where it's going to be completely hidden by the epaulette, and we'll be finished. Here we are. I opted for 5 hooks. Was this the best option? No. I think maybe down the line I may switch to buttons instead of the skirt hooks, but it works for now. And with that, it was done. How about we go watch the reveal? That's it for me. If you're new here and want to stick around, I upload every other Thursday. Thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.